And one time we were walking back from school. This was some point in secondary school, God knows when. But he just looked at me and said, Mario, the days go by slow, but the weeks go fast. And if that's not true, then I don't know what else is.
One of the meat and my steamer is broke. Fuck the oblique turn peak of the soul. Peace never know what's about to occur, but my zen getting rolled at the turn of your words. One of the meat and my steamer is broke. Fuck the oblique turn peak of the soul. Peace never know what's about to occur, but my zen getting rolled at some little words.
Yeah, so here I am in Nara Park in Nara, Japan. Just a few days more than 6 years since I was first planned to come here. And it feels pretty crazy to say, watching the deer trot by, being sat underneath beautiful cherry blossom trees. It's everything I hoped it would be. So I feel very grateful to be here. God, sometimes when you speak with earphones in, it can make your voice sound a lot louder in your head. I'm literally just watching 2 deer tussle while a lady feeds them crackers. They're quite persistent. With the nice kind of soothing music, when you watch the videos of people feeding the deer, it's kind of like, nice, I'm connected with nature, but I'm literally seeing someone run away from the deer with their hands up in the air like, I have no more crackers. But yeah, here I am. And it's crazy to say that my time in Japan is coming to a close, and the time I have left for this backpacking journey is coming to a close, which is crazy to say as well. Wow, what a journey. It feels like multiple multiple arcs in my life coming to a very, very satisfying conclusion, I've mentioned in my previous stuff, whether it's written or whether it's my last video that I made, how lucky I feel to be able to have done this. And I still feel that. Nevertheless, it was kind of always something that lingered in my mind because I had planned to do it in my gap year before university, and thanks to a certain global pandemic, I wasn't able to travel. And luckily that was the worst of it for me, so but it was also always something that kind of lingered there, I always liked the idea of going off on an adventure and not buying a ticket home when I left kind of thing, and that's what I've done. When I set off to Thailand in October, nearly 6 months ago now, I really didn't know what things were going to be like. I've experienced so many things, I've seen so many things, met so many wonderful people, had more experiences than I can ever recall or write down or commemorate, despite my many, many attempts. And I've missed home more than I expected as well, I always kind of felt a slight sense of pride that I didn't often feel homesick back at home, even though there's nothing wrong with being homesick. And in fact, sometimes being homesick means that you have a nice home to go to, which is the case for me, but I just didn't feel homesick. And I guess it's just different when you're on the other side of the world from where you're used to being. It's crazy, and there are things that make me feel anxious about going back home. I didn't really have my shit together before leaving, let alone after doing all of this, and with a whole lot less money in my savings. There's less that kind of security, and I guess I've always had this kind of journey, not always, but for the last while I've had this journey of something in the future. And it's kind of like when you have a package coming in the mail in the next few days, you're like, well, I know that's coming in the next while. So I don't really know what's next for me, At least I got sun and summer in the northern hemisphere, That's nothing to cry about, for sure. And that's the funny thing, I feel, walking around Japan with the cherry blossoms and having done some awesome hiking and trying some awesome food and just really soaking in the experience of being in Japan. I'm really enjoying spring. And it's easy for me to say when I spent a lot of what usually is my winter in tropical islands, but there's something about it. There's something about the kind of the slight pop of hope in my heart when I see a cherry blossom now. And there's something about when the air is crisp, but you can actually feel the warmth of the sun on you, just that little bit. And for me, most notably, when you can see that the days are getting longer, because that's a big deal for me. And lots of people who know me, probably if you're watching this video, you know how much of a big deal that is for me. And yeah, it's crazy to think that this journey's coming to an end, because for so much of it, I've been so like viscerally kind of present and involved with what's going on. It's been hard to imagine going home, you know. I've thought about it a lot because my partner's still back home and I miss her more than I miss anything. And it's been very difficult being by myself, you know, not just being away from my partner, but just spending a lot of time solo. The bits that make it to the Instagram feed, the bits that will show up in the kind of montage intro outro of this video, they're the kind of more aesthetically pleasing parts, the more presentable parts, I guess, in some ways. There's a lot of dingy bathrooms that would make people in my life kind of go, oh gosh. Or there's lots of nights where just before I'm sleeping, I'm like, God, I feel so lonely out here, you know. Times where I zoom out on Google Maps and I see I'm on the other side of the world from like pretty much all the people I care about. And you know, it's the yin and yang of it all. Like you can't have one without the other kind of thing. And throughout my time traveling, I've had a really strange experience with my ideas of faith, which is a strange thing to kind of think about and experience as somebody who's not religious and currently agnostic when it comes to the whole higher power stuff. But before my travels, I was going through a really difficult time in my life, like mental health wise. It was very bad, more difficult than I'd encountered before in my life, and I thought about times in my life where I wished that I did believe in a higher power, where I wish I did have that sense of faith. You know, I've got people in my life who do have that type of faith in a higher power or in a bigger thing than us. And I see how it impacts their lives, you know. I see how it gives them something to anchor them, you know. I see how it gives them something firm to hold on to, or, you know, so many things that maybe I just haven't experienced, because I'm very glad to be agnostic. I'm quite proudly agnostic, but I think there's been times in my life where I've wanted faith or needed faith and not really known where to place that or where to look for it. And in the kind of bubble of privilege that I exist in throughout these travels, there's kind of been ups and downs. There's been hardships. There's been awkward moments where you go, oh God, what's happening here? What am I going to do? And I've been able at many times to just kind of hold on to an idea of faith, this idea that things are going to be okay, I'm going to be okay, you know. Times where I'm in an awkward position and I just have to feel some sense of comfort or some belief that I'm going to end up where I need to end up, or I'm going to be okay even if I'm in an uncomfortable position, or any of that. And or even just faith that I'm going to find people along my travels that kind of re-energize me, or come to a new place and I've, you know, and it's what I wanted it to be, or maybe it even defies expectations, and that's been the case a lot as well. Many places, and time again I've lost faith in my travels. I've kind of ended up in a place or in a certain state of mind and I've been like, God, maybe I should go home, maybe I should call it here, you know, or was this a mistake, you know. And sure enough, whether I completely just lost faith and just stuck it out anyway, or whether I did hold on to that faith, I've found that faith to be renewed, you know. I remember when I was in Laos, the last kind of week I was there, I was by myself for a lot of it. And then the first week I was in Vietnam, I was by myself for a lot of it, and I was starting to go stir crazy. And I was like, I need to like make friends, I need to meet some people. And the next hostel I went to, I literally just sat in the common area of the hostel, just like hoping I'd find someone to start a conversation with. And it wasn't really till breakfast the next day, but sure enough it happened. And the people I met there ended up being like some of the highlights of my whole journey. Crazy times, and even that feels so long ago now. So many memories. And it's funny because sometimes your expectations can be different to the reality of things. Like I've had this idea in my head of what it'd be like to be in Nara during cherry blossom season, and it's amazing, but it's definitely not what I had in my head. And I guess that's life, You could say the same about all of my travels. It doesn't always look like that montage in the end of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button with like Brad Pitt, like working in India and stuff like that. A good deal of it is, but it's not all like that. And like another thing that's been so shocking to me is how kind of shockingly normal things become. When I first arrived in Tokyo, it was so different, so awe-inspiring, so just completely different to any other place I'd ever been in, any place I'd experienced. And yet now when I'm in Japan, obviously I'm still a tourist here. I still don't know like 99.99% of the language. I still feel very kind of alien to this place, but the reality that I'm here, that when I walk around and see signs in Japanese and I navigate around and get on the bullet train and stuff, that it just kind of does become more normal in a way that I never anticipated. I guess we adapt, that's what we do. And so soon this kind of chapter of my life will come to a close, and I'm trying as much as possible to be in a state of mind where I'm excited just to start a new chapter. I'll get to spend a whole lot more time with my partner, which is like the biggest highlight. But also I hope that this journey, these experiences, this perspective on the world and life, I hope it means when I come back, it's a version of me that, can do cool things and experience good stuff, and maybe I'm a bit better at putting myself out of my comfort zone, or maybe I just have new stories to tell. I feel like I've learned a lot about myself. Obviously there's that kind of like stereotypical, I went to Kenya on my gap year kind of thing, about finding yourself. And I think that you can find yourself doing anything. You don't need to be on some spiritual retreat in the Himalayas, or you don't. There's nothing specific that you need to do. I just think that new experiences and challenging yourself does kind of make you learn about yourself. At least it has for me. And this last year of my life has been the most challenging in almost every way I thought imaginable. At times it's felt like it's really worn me down, not just including these months traveling, but before so. And sure enough, I endured, or some version of me made it through. And here I am, I remember just the feeling of walking around this park in Tokyo and seeing cherry blossoms for the first time, just as they were budding. They weren't even fully sprouted like this tree. And I was just crying. It just, not only did it feel like it was fulfilling this kind of long-held want that I've had since I was like 18, and maybe even before then, but also it kind of felt like a strange culmination, a satisfying culmination of all the things I've done to get here. I've done a lot of different things. Every month of this journey feels like it could have been 3 months. I saw my friends in Sri Lanka, like 3 months ago now. Is it 2 months actually? Yeah, it's closer to 2 months than it is 3. But even then, it's just the stuff that's happened since. How long ago that feels. It's impossible to describe, really. And I'm lucky that not really that many bad things have happened to me. I've been a bit lonely. I had one tonsil infection. I've wasted bits of money here and there, getting overpaying for this, and buying that when I shouldn't have needed to. And like that's it. Like you hear some horror stories about people who go traveling and, you know, knock on this earth. Yeah, hopefully I can stick it out for the next couple of days. But yeah, genuinely, I've loved Japan. I didn't even talk in this episode about the hiking that I did. So I finished doing this pilgrimage called the Kumano Kodo Trail, and wow, that kicked my ass, man. Like it was, I couldn't get it booked through the official website, so I had to do some crazy other stuff. And I ended up walking the 38-kilometer trail in 2 days, and I'm not a trained hiker, so that was very difficult. And on the second day, I was supposed to split it up over 3 days, and on the second day, I got to a bus stop, realizing that the last bus of the day had already left, and there was 7 kilometers left of trail, and the sun was setting fast, and my only option was to just run and walk and run and walk. In this denim jacket and a hoodie and these baggy jeans that I bought. Made me feel so silly. But walking the trail was amazing. Such a interesting experience, you know. And because I'm trying to tap into this kind of idea of faith in my life, there was a spiritual element to the pilgrimage due to its history and due to the kind of religious beliefs held in that part of Japan, at least historically. Yeah, it was really interesting to engage with that, to stop at the shrine, and you know, I engaged in the rites, even if I don't know if that's exactly what I believe in, just because, like, when I go to a spiritual place or a religious place, I'm gonna give it a go, you know. Who knows what might awaken or what might speak to me. Yeah, I'm thinking right now of being in a Buddhist temple with an Italian friend, and I asked him if we could just sit there and try and meditate for like just a minute, just see what happens. And I don't know that anything specifically spiritual happened in that moment, but it was a nice moment in front of the big statue of Buddha. So yeah, here I am, having made it an awful long way over what feels like an awful long period of time, but can really go by in the blink of an eye. And yeah, I didn't even do an opening quote. I could do a closing quote. God, especially doing these without editing means that I have to come up with something fast. I will leave off with a quote from Luke, a friend of mine in secondary school with whom I walked to school and back probably most days. I can think of so many. And in fact, we walked together into school for our last ever A-level exam as well. And one time we were walking back from school, this was some point in secondary school, God knows when. But he just looked at me and said, you know, Mario, the days go by slow, but the weeks go fast. And if that's not true, then I don't know what else is. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, tell your family, tell your parents, tell your friends. And if you're watching, you're probably someone very dear to me. So thank you. Have a good one.
What is on my head, what you that, what can waste, what whisk up the eggplant pie, and even side of dragon. Whole country correspondent wings since then, never sing ring.